Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, August 13th, 2018. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Let's go ahead and get right into some space weather news today. Taking a look at our solar conditions, and I tell you, I've been watching the solar wind speed. We are definitely away from that coronal hole that was affecting us yesterday. Solar wind speeds were at 375 just a couple of hours ago. I refreshed it right before we started the broadcast, and it looks like we're down to 344.6 kilometers per second with a density of 5.1. Guess what? No sunspots today. The sun is blank. This will be the 10th day in a row now for 0 sunspots as far as today goes, but 10 in a row, 131 for 2018 without sunspots. Taking a look at our KP indices, we're sitting at a 1, and our 24-hour max is at a 2. And there is the next coronal hole that we will be coming face-to-face with here in the next couple of days. Today's the 13th. We're expecting activity around the 15th and the 16th of August. And that coronal hole right now appears to start to look like it did open up a little bit. It looked like as it comes earth-facing, it's starting to close up once again. We will keep our eyes on that as well. Probably some minor solar wind increases. Nothing geomagnetic is expected. And if you watch right over here, you'll see a weak indentation. Well, let me try to get that for you one more time here. There we go. If you guys watch right in this region right here, you'll see a weak indentation of the corona. And that's an indication right here that we could have a coronal hole coming around, and there you see it right there at the end, the tail end. So looks very weak, nothing to write home about just yet, but we'll keep our eyes on it as always. And let's take a look at our TSI for August 4th, 2018. It looks like we had a reading of 13. Wait, let me double check and make sure that is correct. It is. All right, so for August, today's the 13th, so actually we're looking at today's the 6th. This reading here is for the 6th. Let's try that again, the 5th. It's 8 days, not 7. 1360.750, a little bit up from what we've seen over the last week and a half. It's been staying in the 0.6 values for quite some time. Nothing to be concerned about. And taking a look at watchers here, first off, we have quite a bit of articles to go through tonight, so I want to get started right away. It says here the USGS has recorded more than 270 earthquakes in Alaska's North Slope on Sunday, August 12th, and Monday, August 13th, 2018, including a 6.4, which I did see a 6.7 at first at that one. The most powerful earthquake to ever hit the region. The previous most powerful quake in the North Slope was registered at 5.2 in 1995. The article goes on to reiterate how big it is. It says the jump from an 5.2 to a 6.4 is significant because earthquakes rapidly grow in strength as magnitude rises. That's why at 6.4 this changes how we think about the region. It's a little early to say how, but it's safe to say this earthquake will cause reevaluation of seismic potential in that area. Again, we can check out the watchers for that. Again, 274 earthquakes between 1458 UCT time, August 12th, and 1825 today, August 13th, range from 1.8 to 6.4 with depths up to 54 miles. Massive flood kills 6 people, displaced almost 60,000 people in the Philippines. At least 6 people have lost their lives, 4 in the capital region, 2 in Zambales and Benguet. 59,000 were forced to evacuate. About 1.1 million were affected since Saturday, August 11th, the Disaster Monitoring Agency had said. The PAGASA issued a red rating for Metro Manila, Rizal, orange rainfall warning for Cavite, Bataan, and Simbas, Nuvia, Ixia, and Pampanga, or how about Pampanga? And Balkan, yellow for Tarlac, Lugana, Batangas, and northern Quezon. Let's take a look at some of the footage here if we can. Not too much though. A little high there to be riding your bikes in. Several videos were sent in. Schools were shut down in Metro Manila and other parts of the main island of Luzon, and operators of 5 dams were forced to open floodgates. It was a necessary move, but one that further worsened the flooding there. Trying to keep track of everything here. And that's a little bit higher water there. That's up to their, it looks like chest. So possibly 4.5 feet of water right there they're treading through. Of course, you're going to have traffic issues when you have water. This isn't too hateful, but you can see the congestion the flooded roads have been causing. More monsoon rains were expected on August 13th. Although they aren't expected to be as strong as on August 11th, it's uncertain how the rest of the month will go. Monsoon rains enhanced by tropical storms in the past weeks have displaced nearly 400,000 people, the Disaster Monitoring Agency said. We'll leave a link in the description. And I like what the Watchers is doing here. And this is kind of like a quick headline recap. And it's called their news brief. And they've been doing it now for a few days. So tonight I'm going to read one. And it gives us a lot of information in a short period of time. So here we go. Costly hailstorms are rapidly increasing. And that's what we kind of talked about the other night on Saturday. Costly, they are increasing in the United States, with the average now accumulating over to $8 to $10 billion in hail damage. This is according to Brian Wood of Capital Weather Gang Reports. Additionally, hailstorms account for 70% of the insured loss from severe storms. In 2017 alone, there were 2 billion in hailstorms, one in Denver and the other in Minneapolis. Nearly 900 wildfires erupted in Texas this year, state on pace for worst wildfire since 2011. While the fires raging in California have garnered national attention and help from fire departments across the country, Texas is on pace to see the highest number of wildfires in the state in 7 years, according to Texas A&M Forest Service data. As of August 9th, the Forest Service tallied 893 wildfires in Texas in 2018. That's higher than the number of wildfires in each year from 2012 through 2017. 2013, which also had 899 fires. Flash flood sweeps away nearly a dozen cars in New Jersey. I'll cover that here in a little bit. 112-year-old record for lowest maximum high temperature broken in Texas. It was 78 degrees on August 11th, and the previous record was 79 back in 1906. So this was a 112-year-old record for the lowest maximum temperature for this time of the year. More wildfires in the U.S. burned 22.6 million hectares. That's 5.8 million acres so far in 2018. Huge wildfire burning in Eva, Greece. 2 villages evacuated. 186 personnel, 62 fire engines, plus 8 firefighting aircraft, and 5 helicopters were involved in the efforts in trying to bring this blaze under control. Massive dust, wind, rainstorms hit southern Nevada, causing mass power outages on August 11th, 2018, knocking down trees and power poles, sparking fires and triggering flash flood warnings. More than 60,000 customers were left without power. Yikes. Let's continue to move along here. We already talked about the earthquake swarm in Alaska, and that was it. So that's kind of what the news briefs are going to be like. We're going to go through those pretty fast, read off the important headlines around the world, and give you quick facts about those headlines. Also, you could find the entire article, and the link is in the description. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Sun now for weather about UK. Sees drivers trapped in floods with thunder, 2 inches of rain and hail today, but a 10-day heat wave to return. So this area just started to see some relief from the heat. A severe weather alert is in place for today. Warning of heavy downpours that could see 2 inches of rain fall over several hours, accompanied by thunder, lightning, and hail. But forecasters are also predicting the return of a summer heat wave that saw Britain basking record temperatures. A flash flood in Liverpool saw a young couple trapped in their car in the dip of the road by rising water. They eventually managed to wade through the waters just as fire brigade arrived. I also saw another story where a newlywed couple in Pennsylvania were trapped. They'd just gotten married and they had to be rescued by the police. Taking a look at some maps for the forecast. Here is the areas of warnings for thunderstorms. We have a warning and a watch, it looks like. 2 different areas here. West Sussex was hit the worst as nearly 2 inches of rain fell in the village of Hurstmonceau. Sorry if I butchered that. Just short of the monthly average. Elsewhere, more than 3/4 of an inch of rain battered Charwood, Surrey, and Shoeburyness, Essex, as the downpours move north and are forecast to continue into today. The Met Office said a day of heavy downpours with lightning, hail, and strong gusts is in store for us for sure. We'll leave the link in the description. Lots of video footage to check out from the area. Again, not just in the United States, but we're seeing flooding everywhere. Here we are, Syracuse. Another week, another chance for heavy rain and flash flooding in parts of upstate New York. The pattern has been in place since early July and remains. While much of the northern part of the state is dry, the southern part is forecast to get hammered by rain again. I believe me and Equa were just talking about how the areas have been getting hammered here lately. The Elmira area has had more than 14 inches of rain since July 1st and is expected to get 2 more inches of rain today. And by the way, Elmira is in a flood watch right now, and a flash flood warning as well. So there's a closer look at our watches and warning maps here from NOAA. And you can see mainly here in the northeast, this area right here is the worst of it all as far as the rain goes. And thankfully, New Jersey and New York City will be out of this eventually here soon. Parts of Pennsylvania, you've seen your share. But we've got flash flood watches, flash flood warnings, coastal flood watch, coastal flood warnings, small stream flood advisories, you name it, anything that is involved with, and of course the flash flood. That's the most dangerous one. The parts where you see the red in those counties right there, that's where we're going to be dealing with a little bit more dangerous weather. Also, I want to point out Baltimore, you're still in a flash flood warning. I reported on Saturday that Baltimore had seen their share of rain as well. Take a look here. Let's see, moving along to the New Jersey story. Here's what I was going to talk about real quick. We've all seen this on social media, this classic footage. This is a used car lot, Jeep and Chrysler dealership. It's one thing to get hail damage. These cars are a total loss, folks. There's no insurance claims for these. These cars are total losses. So make sure you pay attention to see what cars these actually were. That way when you go to your local auction, you don't buy one of these flood cars, because that's where these cars are heading to right now, is the auction. A torrent of heavy rain spawned flash floods across northern New Jersey on Saturday, sending cars from a dealership down a river and striking a highway overpass. And video taken from an overpass on Route 46 in Little Falls, located about 20 miles west of New York City. Several cars can be seen floating away down the Peckman River in Passaic County from the parking lot of a dealership. The vehicles, which still have sticker prices available on windshields, swiftly float down the swollen river as onlookers watched the scene unfold. And a lot of people were in shock here by seeing this. I don't think it's not, we show you this kind of footage from Turkey and other parts of the world, and that one won't play. And it is kind of shocking when you see it here in the States. They did issue a flood advisory today. Showers and thunderstorms will be producing heavy rain, will move across the area, causing urban and small stream flooding, as we've already discussed. Overflowing poor drainage areas will result in minor flooding in the advisory areas. And here's a little bit of rainfall in the area. Here, Caldwell, New Jersey takes the cake. This is through 8 p.m. yesterday. 4.92 inches of rain. National Weather Service in Upton gets 4.12. Norwalk, Connecticut, 3.4. You can see here, Wading River, New York, 3 inches. White Plains, New York has 2.94. Central Park got 2.9 inches of rain. Hampton Bays, New York, 2.5 inches. New Jersey City, New Jersey, 2.26. LaGuardia Airport got 1.26. Hawthorne, New York got 2.1 inches of rain. There was an area that did see about 3 to 4 inches of rain by the time the storms had moved out. Of course, we just shared that with you. We had about about 6 areas that saw 3+ inches of rain. Leave a description and link. And also, I wanted to show you, these are updated for Saturday. This is for Sunday, August 12th. And as you see, we had counties in New Jersey with 2.79. Here's Essex County, West Caldwell, 5.14 inches of rain. That's a 2-day total, but still quite a bit of rain. Caldwell itself received 3.55, and North Caldwell received about 3.332. So that looks like Essex County was the bullseye for that heavy downpour. Little Falls, 3.91 inches of rain in Passaic County. Hawthorne once again received more rain on top of the 2 inches that we already reported you. Another 2 inches, 2.89 to be exact. That was as of Sunday morning, 7 a.m. So I'll leave the link in the description. You guys can take a look at all the rainfall that we've seen. It's just insane when you talk about what's happening here in the Northeast and also Washington, D.C. area. Drenching rains, flood highways, trap motorists. This is the Inquirer in Philly. Rains falling fast and furiously flooded roads and highways around Philadelphia area Monday, trapping dozens of motorists in high water and prompting officials to evacuate residents of homes where creeks had overrun their banks. And I just wanted to point out another article, more water flowing ever. Here's another vehicle that's submerged in water in a regular neighborhooded area. There was about 49 rescues reported in Chester County. Montgomery County said they had 39 and 51 vehicle accidents and 48 disabled vehicles thus far. This is just a nightmare for all rescue and police enforcement, EMTs, fire departments. Those folks are going to be the ones that are going to feel the most out of all this. They're going to be busy nonstop around the clock. The National Weather Service also said a train spotter reported 4.1 inches of rain fell in Wayne, Delaware counties. Heaviest of rains moved through the area. National Weather Service said a flood warning would be in place until 6 p.m. for Chester, Delaware, Philadelphia, and Montgomery counties, and northwest Bucks County in southeastern Pennsylvania, and northwest Camden County and west central Burlington County in South Jersey. Link will be in the description. Moving right along. More than a dozen drivers rescued from Lynn flash flooding. If this is in the Boston area, a torrential downpour of near biblical proportions, 8 inches of rain in 2 hours, rapidly filled Lynn's low-lying streets with a foot to 3 feet of water or more yesterday, straining dozens of drivers, destroying untold numbers of moving and parked cars, flooding dozens of homes and businesses, prompting as many as 200 emergency calls, forcing at least 15 rescues from cars. I'm not going to read everything here, but this article does a great job. They picked up some eyewitnesses, put their name and their age in here, and a lot of these people are saying a lot of the same. They couldn't believe the flooding. They've never seen this before. The list goes on and on and on. It says here at the end, normally with heavy rain, we have flooding in locations that we know will be flooding out. Today, normal places that we don't expect started flooding out. And that's starting to be a common phrase that we're hearing throughout the communities, throughout the world. They've seen flooding before and they know where to expect it at, but not in some of these areas that they're seeing it in now. Put that on top of the normal stuff. And again, talking about flash flood watch in effect for severe weather passes through. This is Washington, D.C. is on a watch for possible flash flooding on Monday night after severe storms complicated the evening commutes. Thunderstorm warnings and flash flood watches are in effect for big swaths of the area, and rain and heavy at times is likely to deliver a wet slap to commuters through this evening. Here's a little map of what we're expecting in the areas of flash flood watches, and as you see just below Washington, you guys are all in the clear right now. But here we go. It lists all the counties here in Maryland, Virginia, and here is a look at the current radar right now. As we see, we are starting to get a little bit of relief in this particular area. This article was printed up earlier, but as you see some rotation, these storms are moving back through the area once again, but a lot more scattered than they were earlier when they were organized and dropping heavy amounts of rain. Watch out for Richmond, Virginia. Looks like you guys are now just getting into some heavier rain, as well as Hopewell, Virginia. Looks to be getting some of that shower action as well. Also, I wanted to point out, well, no, I didn't actually. So I already talked about this earlier last week about YouTube putting pointless cue cards on these climate videos. And I'm not going to read this article to you guys, but I wanted to bring it up because we're starting to see a lot more of this. And this guy here says he's logged into over 700 YouTube videos that are skeptical of climate change alarmism, and not one argues the earth is not warming. The debate is entirely about the cause or causes of this warming, human versus natural, and about whether or not it's dangerous, calling for action. If there is a serious video claiming that there is, in fact, no warming, I would love to see it. We're not finding it. And this just goes back to where we think here at YouTube, we're starting to see some thought control, and they don't want you to think otherwise. When you see our videos tonight, earlier, I was looking at our channel, and I saw that card, that Wikipedia card, in a couple of our videos once again. So whenever we talk about global warming and how we don't believe it's real and how we think that man-made global warming is the biggest hoax on the planet, I'm sure tonight you'll see that card underneath of my video talking about how global warming is real and we're still warming in fact, but we're not. So I don't know. It's a little frustrating that, and this is not the only platform that's doing it. Facebook has been weeding out some of its, what they think is fake news, and they're doing a terrible job. And I'm not going to get into what they're doing because it's not really on topic right now. But there's so many social media platforms out there that are shadow banning. They're banning certain groups. They're banning certain topics. And to me, it's under the radar right now, not just for climate change, but it seems like our First Amendment right is getting violated right now in certain spots of social media. So it's something to keep an eye on out there, guys. It's not just YouTube, it's Facebook, it's Twitter. The major social media giants are the ones participating the most in this censorship / mind control. Obviously, they don't want you critically thinking about the possibility that we are cooling and that CO2 is not a pollutant, which we all know here at this channel that we don't buy into that theory. So, but I just wanted to share another article off of Climate Depot again, but talking about more instances now we're seeing these cue cards in front of what we are trying to talk about here. We're trying to deliver the truth, and you got YouTube, a big brother, saying, "Nuh-uh, that's not what's happening. This is what's happening." So find it a little childish, but we'll get through it. I'm sure it'll go away because every time YouTube tries stuff like this, usually the users aren't too happy about what's going on. Not just the channel creators, but the users get a little tired of it too. Their opinions are sought out, and a survey will be done, and hopefully we can put this one to rest as soon as we lit it up. And I want to point out a gentleman here. I have Starman, good guy, does a lot of his own research. He has a blog. I'll leave the link in the description, also to this article. And what he did here, his own work, is that he took in effect, he says, today we're going to look at the correlation between OLR, outgoing long-wave radiation, and ENSO, El Nino Southern Oscillation, and the lower tropospheric global temperatures. This presentation will specifically focus on the following geographical coordinates of 5 degrees north and -5 degrees south, plus a 120 to 170 degrees west along the equatorial Pacific ENSO plus OLR. So I appreciate the specific area because a lot of the global warmers won't even read that part, and they'll try to dispute the information as it being global. But I'm glad that he is zero in on this area. So let's be clear what we're talking about here. And I will leave this link in the description, as I found, every time I've talked to David, he shows me his writings, his graphs, his charts. I mean, all this information is verifiable. He's just not pulling this out of his ass. He works very hard. And if you guys have some time, please stop over to his blog and check out. He has other papers besides this. This one here just caught my attention. He shared it with me a couple days ago. This is his page overview of my research. Kind of gives a little bit about himself, and then goes, he has a few, like I said, he's got other articles besides this, very useful charts. This is kind of like my cheat sheet stuff here, guys. When I have a hard time following certain stuff, I've got Rob and I've got Starman, I've got Henrik, other folks who participate in this community as well. So I just wanted to share this with the community, and everybody needs to check out the Starman. If you haven't, please subscribe. This man does brilliant work, and this is not just something you can slap together in a couple hours on a blog. This takes a lot of time, and I commend him for his hard work and appreciation for his dedication to this work, because it's very tedious and very ongoing. There's nothing that you're going to find out overnight. This is something that will be a progression, and we just have to continue to monitor as the years go by. I said years. Study talking about CO2 rise after the last ice age didn't need man-made influences, just the deep Pacific oceans. And this article here talks a lot about after the last glacial period that we saw a rise in CO2. And I've talked about this. I've actually read a couple papers a few months ago that talk about when you have warmer ocean temperatures, there is where you get the majority of your CO2 into the atmosphere, is from our oceans. And this article went a little bit further than that, describing how we see extreme carbon from the deep parts of these oceans. And it all has to do about water patterns and how fast the patterns are going. The slower, the less CO2 that we are seeing emitted into the atmosphere. But the faster these patterns are, the more we see of concentrated CO2, because that motion in the water is basically digging up old carbon that's collected at the bottom of the ocean floor. And only when the water pattern streams are moving along quite a bit, especially if they're accelerated, is where you're going to get that strong concentrated carbon from the bottom of the floor. Of course, like I said, when it slows down, that's when everything settles to the bottom. But it talks about a little bit of that. It's called a flushing of the deep Pacific Ocean caused by acceleration of water circulation patterns that begin around Antarctica. The concern is researchers say that it could happen again, potentially magnifying and accelerating human-caused climate change. But he's just stating what they're claiming here. But what he's saying to us is that here's another example of how temperature rose first and then CO2. And from what I've learned and what I'm learning is that when there is a temperature rise in our oceans and then you combine it with this fast accelerated water pattern in the ocean that's digging up all this old carbon on the bottom of the ocean floor, it kind of magnifies the rise in CO2. So interesting article. If you guys get some time, I recommend taking a look at this. Very good read, of course, from What's Up With That. And here's one that kind of doesn't surprise me. I want to kind of chuckle about this one because the article itself was not funny, but the study is earthquakes on one side of the earth can trigger new ones on opposite side. And I've always seen the articles and videos on YouTube where whenever a earthquake would happen in New Zealand, some of the conspiracy theory people out there will actually go as far and try to correlate, well, on the other side of New Zealand is where CERN holds their cauldron, so that earthquake was triggered by CERN. Well, take out the conspiracy part. They were kind of right. It wasn't CERN, but earthquakes from the other side of the planet can trigger other earthquakes, especially if they're over that 6.5 nature. And again, just something that, I'm sure most of us already kind of suspected, but now we are finding in this new study that an earthquake of 6.5 or greater can induce another earthquake on the opposite side of the planet in that general region with a 5.0 or higher. So just interesting that we finally have a paper now that can correlate that, and hopefully we can put to bed these conspiracy theorists who want to talk about CERN firing up their cauldron and causing earthquakes and all that good exciting stuff that we always see on YouTube. Gotta love YouTube. All right, take a look at another article here. The major change in global warming groupthink between 1990 and 95. I'm going to read a little bit of this. The 1990 IPCC report was under the circumstances as reasonable document within the bounds of what it set out to achieve. Yes, it was limited to only human causes of climate change by the definition given to it by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That abbreviation is just ridiculous, and I'd rather say United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change versus UNFCCC. Yes, it was bureaucratically controlled by its creation, though the World Meteorological Organization. Yes, it was built on a system that seemed to predetermine the outcome. Still, the overall report provides a reasonable attempt to create a historical context for the hypothesis that human CO2 was causing global warming. it was more in vain in context of Margaret Thatcher's early use of climatology for a political agenda. Thatcher wanted to replace coal and nuclear power, identifying CO2 as a problem because it was causing global warming, and that was central to that plan. But Thatcher also had the added incentive that the great bane in her political life and goals for economic development were blocked by dominance and disruption of the coal miners' union, led by its leader, Arthur Scargill. The union held the country to ransom and almost brought it to its economic knees. A measure of intransigence was Scargill's election as union president for life. But interesting how we always seem to find the politics find their way into climate controversy. And another interesting graph, just to prove my point, we have 411 parts per million on our CO2 right now in our atmosphere. And you can see where that little bump is right there above baseline. Look at the medieval period. And we were, in this time right here, we were around 280 parts per million. Right here, we're at 411 parts per million. So we're almost twice as much CO2 from when we were in this period. And yet, this period was still dominantly warmer than what we've went through just recently from the 2000 through 2016. I'll leave the link in the description. You guys can check that out. And taking a look at our NOAA, like I said earlier, we have some flash flooding going on in New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Baltimore, parts of Pennsylvania still flooding out. And then we had also Texas, Oklahoma. You guys have seen your share of showers today. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. The East Coast, the Southeast, Florida, and of course Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. You guys are all seeing scattered showers. Nothing too severe that we're seeing so far on the weather reports. No tornadoes or anything like that. Just some regular basic showers, heavy downpours in certain areas as well. And before I get out of here tonight, I also wanted to take a look at our SSTs. Our East Tropical Atlantic anomaly is once again declining back down below negative 0.537. Our El Nino 3-4 index is below where some had thought. Also, we keep seeing it teeter-totting below 2 point and go up above 0.3. So we'll keep watching as right now it looks like it's back on the rise once again. And of course that North Atlantic, which peaked up right around 0.349, I believe now it's back down to 0.390. So there it is once again. It gets above that or below that -5 region and starts to decline. We'll see if it goes lower than the 1.2 negative that we had just a few weeks ago as well. But with that being said, Mari, I'd like to check in with you, see if there's any questions in the chat or how's everybody doing as far as that goes. I know you're doing a good job like always, I'm sure.
Everyone in the chat is great, Jake. Same usual stuff. Surprising mod in the chat at this late hour. Starman got to hear all your information about his awesome blog, and he thanks you very much.
Well, I don't do it any justice by reading it. I've read it 4 times a day, and I didn't want to trip up on the words, so I figured if I just briefly went over it and showed everybody where this was, I hope everybody saves this as a favorite now, because, like I said, Starman works way too hard for some amateur reporter out there to just fumble over his words. So I wanted to make sure that people are aware of his blog and highlight that information because, like I said, we don't see or hear from him that much. The guy is constantly busy doing his own research. But with that said, we thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel tonight. Please tune in tomorrow evening as we will come back with another update for the day of Tuesday, August 14th. We'll probably do it around the same time, around 8 p.m. Eastern time zone. All right, guys, be safe out there, and we will talk soon.